Starting the resume recording, and then I'm also going to start my
check.
garage band.
Yo.
I'm recording.
Check.
Everybody's recording local.
Yeah, I'm
What's
good.
that mean?
Everybody's you're starting.
Now I got you. Now I understand. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I don't yell into the mic and then have it peak. Check. Okay, cool. All right. Cool.
What's up, everybody? This is Nick Nocera. Welcome to No One Likes a Tuna podcast, the world's premier dedicated Fast and Furious podcast. Darryl Wong, my intrepid co-host. You're with me today.
I am. It's wonderful to be here.
I totally forgot to mention last time that this cycle we're watching the movies backwards. So we started with Hobbs and Shaw last week, and then we did F8 this week. And we'll see if it's a different experience, but it probably won't be.
I'm kind of digging the backwards. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, we always say that the first movie is the best one to watch. So I actually have something to look forward to at this point. Whereas like having Hobbs and Shaw as the sort of final movie in our series is, kind of a downer.
Yeah, it's super down. We have a special guest this week. So Stephen Weinheimer, right?
Yep, that's it.
Yep.
It's Italian.
Yep. It's Italian. From the famous Sicilian Weinheimers. Is with us this weekend. Also watched The Fate of the Furious with us. And Stephen, how did you feel? And you've never seen this movie before, right?
I've never seen The Fate of the Furious before, no.
But you have seen other Fast and Furious features.
I've only seen Fast and Furious 1. Or I guess it's just called The Fast and the Furious. Or The Fast and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was a leap for you, probably.
I wrote some notes. They definitely are a lot different in this one than they were in the one when I was a freshman in high school. Definitely a lot different.
Yeah, they went
superhuman. They can get hit by rubber bullets. It would appear and just keep. Oh, yeah.
So, what are your initial impressions of the movie?
People have told me about how good these past few were, and I was so into it almost immediately. Yeah, it took like about 15 seconds, and then once he started, Dom's his name, started ripping off the pieces of his cousin's car.
Yeah,
I was just like, yep, no, I'm into this world. I got it. I understand what the stakes are. Let's do this.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed, Darryl, is that I wrote a note about, how he takes off the gas line or the vacuum tube.
Mm-hmm.
Dom says this is a trick the Buster used to pull, which I have never. He's talking about Brian.
He's talking about Brian?
Yeah, Paul Walker is in real life deceased, Stephen, but in the movie in canon is not deceased.
I have a lot of notes, and that was definitely one of my questions, if he was alive or not in the Fast and Furious universe. But.
Yeah,
I feel like Brian O'Connor has a lot of nicknames throughout the series, and truly Busta is the most, it carries the most sort of value. It really warms my heart the most when they call him the Busta.
Yeah. I mean, because it's a direct call from one, right? Of just of Dom always ripping on Brian being a buster, basically. And Vince too.
Yeah.
But I thought it was a sweet little callback and a shout out to Brian. But in canon, where do we think Brian is? Do we know? He's in the DR with Mia.
Let's see. Where's he supposed to be? He's definitely not. He has a baby and he drove off. Let's think. Where in 7 do we think that beach was?
I mean, I'm assuming it's the DR.
Yeah.
Only because Mia stays in the DR during 7's extravaganza, and then maybe they go there to meet up with her afterwards. I'm not quite sure, but
I love how confused I am. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
What other questions? What other questions do you have about this movie that perhaps the two most preeminent scholars of the Fast and Furious in the world could answer for you?
Well, I mean, the thing is that there's a lot of things that were definitely answered in the films between, 1 and 8.
Yes.
Like, there's just all these little characters that I'm like, I have no idea who those people. Like, so there's two guys speaking in Spanish that pick up Jason Statham's character in the ambulance that I assume must have been a character in some other Fast and Furious film, right? That must be a callback, right?
They are a callback, yes. Their names are Omar and Tego. Is that right?
That's correct.
And they are featured most prominently in 5.
Yes.
But they are also in 4. They're introduced in 4. They're featured in 5, and they have a small role in 6.
Okie dokie. So yeah, because I saw those two dudes, and I was like, they definitely. This isn't a one-off, because that would be really confusing. Oh, and I love, this isn't a question, this is a statement. I love Helen Mirren doing like a gross English accent.
Yeah, her like Cockney bullshit accent. Yeah, it's kind of good.
I was like, she's always sounds so like sweet and soft, and I was like, no, I like this Helen Mirren. It's pretty cool.
Darryl, we talked last week about, during Hobbs and Shaw, how Shaw, Jason Statham's character and his sister sort of have like a fucky relationship, like they kind of want to fuck each other a little bit.
Right. Deckard and Hattie.
Thank you for the names there. How did you, and we also mentioned that maybe Vin and Helen Mirren got a little thing going on in this movie. How did you feel about that in this situation?
I mean, there's definitely a little bit of chemistry there. I mean, to even like be so bold on Dom's part to be able to meet with the mother of his two biggest enemies. I think like it takes more than just sort of being bold in order to do that. And if we fill in that blank with a little bit of sexual chemistry, I think that makes that meeting a little bit more, it connects a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, they want to fuck. That's what I mean.
I definitely noticed that. I knew no context about the two of them, but it definitely seemed like they wanted to have sex.
I think Helen Mirren, just herself as a person, like, I'm just trying to embody the idea of Helen Mirren in my head. I'm on set for, I don't know, half a day. And I have a scene with Vin Diesel, and I'm looking across the studio at him, and he's sitting in a chair over there. I'm thinking, you know what? I'm Helen Mirren. I got one Helen Mirren life to live. and maybe I'll fuck Vin Diesel today. Maybe that's what's going to happen. Today. I would have done it if I was Helen, I
think she might be on the upper echelon, from him. I think she's, I mean, I don't know. I guess you guys probably love Vin Diesel on this podcast, but Helen Mirren's like a total babe. And, I mean, she could have anybody, Personally, I saw Jason Statham's chin in this, and I was like, God damn, Jason Statham has an amazing chin.
Yeah, he's very handsome.
He's a very good-looking dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know, Darryl, what Jason Statham brings to the team in this movie is something I focused on. Like, he has one moment where he tracks Vin down once a little bit, kind of. But other than that, he doesn't really, they like make this big deal of bringing him in and he killed Han and everybody's like at odds with each other. But like, other than having Jason Statham in your movie, does he really bring like an extra added thing to the team in your mind?
Yeah, I was trying to pay attention to that as well, because I mean, I think part of this backwards watch is backwards, like end of the series to the start, right? We are forced to sort of see the story from like it almost starts with Rock and Shaw, yeah, Hobbs and Shaw, and like you start it that way, so you end up like thinking about them more throughout the watch through here. And on that note, I actually think I noticed something in this watch through where when Cypher blows up the nowhere base and they enter in, she and Vin are there, they blow the place up. There's a shot there where Deckard Shaw is going and he springs in the air and he saves Ramsey, and then he gets hit by a big slab of concrete. And I sort of never noticed that before, but it sort of stuck with me this time because we're watching this backwards. I'm thinking about whether or not I like the Shaw Bros. Yeah. And I picked up on a couple more things there where they put some effort into turning him into a good guy.
They put a lot of effort into turning him into a good guy, but it doesn't carry weight because we all know he killed Han, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. To me, Stephen, how did you feel about the Shaw character / Shaw brothers?
Well, I didn't. The only reason I knew that there was a second Shaw brother who was on that television screen, right, and then he finally shows up at the end of the film on the plane. I was just like, I did not know that Jason Statham was a parkour specialist. He's in that prison, and then at one point I see him actually jump over a car. You know, it's in the camera shot it's obviously him. It's not and I was like, maybe Jason Statham actually knows parkour. So I mean, I don't know the team that well, but I mean, he saves Dom's child, which is a huge thing for the team, and he brings parkour to the team. And then there's that first person baby POV where he makes a poop joke, which I mean, that's, I don't know if that counts. I was like, oh, so I mean, poop jokes, parkour, and
all right. I mean, that's saving. Fair. But, that's fair. I do though feel like basically everyone in this movie is a parkour specialist.
That is true. That is true. And they all know computers and cars, I've noticed. Yeah.
That's the weird thing. Yeah. Go ahead, Darryl.
But Jason Statham has like a history of like, he knows parkour because like he was big. I think he was really big in the early 2000s when people were into parkour. That's true. Through the Transporter movies and his Crank movies, he did a lot of like running, fighting sequences, right? Yeah. And I think that was right. They were trying to bring that element into the Fast and the Furious series, partly with him, and then with Tony Jaa, who plays the Ong Bak guy. He's in 7, and right, he does all of that close quarters combat with Brian.
The guy Brian fights at the end, kind of in the building.
Yeah, they have a number of fights throughout sort of that movie, which are highly like quick, athletic, parkour style, combat.
I mean, maybe I'm just like remembering it in my head, but in 5, I feel like Brian and Vin both sort of parkour through the Rio de Janeiro favelas, basically. I mean, maybe they're just running and jumping, kind of. There's not really parkour, I guess.
Parkour. The difference between running and jumping and parkour,
lay it out, baby.
It's all about style. All right, it's all about style. It's like take the most complicated way from point A to point B and do it with a little bit of extra flavor. Like that's the true parkour mentality.
So what is free running?
That's the American version of the French-originated parkour.
Parkour.
I was running across the stairs, and then I jumped across to the other parking lot.
Okay.
I did like the prison parkour though, because just what's his name? Kurt Russell. He gives them shit right when they get outside. He said, "I thought you would have got out fast." I have no idea who Mr. Nobody is, by the way, but I did like him a lot.
Nobody does.
But his assistant, he had such a punchable face. I assume you guys know the character's name, but that guy, the second I saw him on screen, I wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah, Scott. That is Clint Eastwood's son, Scott Eastwood.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I've never seen him really in anything else, but I guess he did we talked about his horse. He did a horse movie at one point.
Mm-hmm.
The Mule?
No,
sorry, that was a
not
Clint
weirdly,
joke.
not that's Clint.
Sorry, that was a bad joke.
And that is, by the way, that's not quite a horse movie. It's a half horse, half donkey movie.
Oh,
that's a little mule joke for y'all.
Okay, that was good. Oh goodness.
So,
can I ask a question?
Yeah, please ask away.
So one of my things was, because I know for a fact that Jason Statham in the series was a villain and then becomes part of the team.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure The Rock was the same thing, right? He was a villain, then he becomes part of the team. So every movie, does the villain then become part of the team the next movie? Is that like a pattern that is Charlize Theron going to be, once she gets caught, then become part of the team?
Interesting idea. Because we don't know, because 9 has been delayed till next year. It was supposed to come out.
I heard.
May.
I'm sorry to hear that for you guys.
It's going out really soon, and it has been pushed for a year, which is really
and have you guys discussed, because I mean, the first thing I noticed when I saw Charlize Theron on screen was someone gave her the blonde white dreads from Angelina Jolie in Gone in 60 Seconds, right?
You guys
talked
about this.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, did they just take this from a different car movie and put it on her head?
In fact,
like, there's no way you guys hadn't spoken about that.
I would bet my life savings on the idea that the costume designer or director, somebody pulled an image of Angelina from that movie as inspiration for the Cypher character.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Cypher was a character in The Matrix. I watched too many movies, but I was like, oh, they're just taking things left and right from other movies. What's Charlize Theron's name? Her name's Cypher, and I don't know. And did they give her weird contacts, or did I just think that watching this movie?
I don't think so. I haven't noticed that. I haven't noticed
Me
that.
neither.
But to go to your earlier question about, do the bad guys become good guys? Sort of, yes. It's definitely in my mind, a pattern, right? Like,
it starts with the first movie, right? Which is that, like, we're following Dominic Toretto, bad guy, and
sort of.
Brian O'Connor is a good guy. We're rooting for
Dom in the first movie.
Yeah, but then he's able to convert Brian, right, from whatever. Bad guy to good
from
guy.
cop to, he sort of goes from good guy to bad guy in a way.
Good guy to bad guy, yeah. So,
2, no, but 4, no. Oh, except for
Giselle?
potentially Giselle, who is played by Gal Gadot.
Oh wow, that was before she was Wonder Woman, I guess, right?
Yeah, for Fast and Furious, the 4th installment was sort of her breakout role. She had sort of a big supporting role in that movie, and she is like a bad guy's henchman who gets turned good by Dom throughout the course of the movie. And then she's good in 5. She comes back for 5, and she's a good guy. 5, The Rock is sort of an antagonist. He's not the main antagonist, but he is an antagonist in the movie. He's trying to catch the team. And then he turns good for 6. 6, we have Owen Shaw, who we know is a good guy in this movie. 7, Shaw 2, Deckard Shaw, who turns into a good guy in this movie. Again,
Stephen, I think you nailed. I think you nailed the theme here.
I was looking. I was like, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the way. I mean, these movies have to work, because like, well, we can't just have them be the bad guy over and over again, and all these fans are loving them, so we must make them part of the team. And
I think the second part of what you just said is much more to the truth, right? It's like, they put The Rock in one of the movies, and they were like, oh, this movie made a shit ton of money. Let's put The Rock in the next movie.
Yeah.
And then they had, Jason Statham in one of the movies, and they were like, this did extremely well. We're going to keep Jason. We're going to find a way to keep Jason Statham involved in this franchise, which, as we know, Darryl has created significant tension within the actual cast and crew of Fast and Furious.
Can you expound for a noob that doesn't know what you're talking about, or is that not good podcast?
No. We're fully on board with discussing the beef. Darryl, do you want to lay out the beef?
Sure. So, up to for movies 1 through 5, basically, we're growing with Dominic Toretto, Brian O'Connor. We get introduced to Tyrese, to Tej, Ludacris, and this family sort of comes to a place. But in movie number 5, we run into Rock, and Rock, you're right, like plays the enemy, but his entrance into the series starts to draw attention away from sort of the characters that we've grown to know and love. And as that sort of tension, it starts as very small in 5, but as we continue to see Rock through 6, 7, and now 8, we're led to believe both by Tyrese's social media and just like other
mostly Tyrese's social media.
mostly Tyrese's Instagram, but also sort of the path of the movies and the splinters because of the Rock's initial presence. And we're of the belief here that like his star magnitude and his desire to play himself in these movies detracts from the kind of like wholesome quality that we like about the Fast and Furious franchise. To a point now where like the actors off screen don't like each other. So Tyrese and Rock have beef. Vin also has beef, and now Rock is sort of taken off. He's taken off to his own sort of section of the Fast and Furious franchise.
So that's why they made the Hobbs and Shaw one, because the rest of the guys didn't want to work with them?
Essentially, yes. Yeah. And you know, you can see in this movie, I don't know if you noticed, but the Rock and Vin Diesel don't have a scene together, basically.
Well, I noticed, it was one of the things I wrote down. It appears a lot of the people, they don't have like master shots. It's a lot of just back and forth conversation. Yes. So I'm like, how often are these actors actually in the same room?
Not often is my
because they're always in a car, or it's a back and forth conversation. I'm like, even if they don't like each other, it seems like, I mean, I guess between The Rock and Vin Diesel, it's like those guys' schedules must be crazy. So even beyond not liking each other,
well,
they just
funny
probably
you mention
don't
schedule.
Close to each other.
It's funny you mention schedule, because part of this is all rumor mill shit, right? But like, apparently some of the initial shit was that like Vin had another project he wanted to get working on while they were filming 8. And so as a producer, he pressured people to move his block of filming up so that he could sort of get done quicker, which also pushed around The Rock's schedule in a way that The Rock wasn't very happy about. And so The Rock called out like, these, I don't know what he called them out on social media or Instagram.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
He was pissed about that. And then he was like, real men show up to work every day and stuff like that. So, but no, they're not in the same room as each other. Unless you see them in the same shot, I was trying to pay attention. I didn't catch everything, but I don't think you see like Vin and The Rock in the same shot in this movie.
I think maybe in the first like heist with the wrecking ball thing, maybe
they're in different cars. Not until
maybe right at the end where he knocks him out, and Rock is sort of sidelined there, and they have to have that interaction. Maybe then, but like not really anywhere else.
Well, the other thing is like the worldliness of this movie starts to get lost, because I noticed this. You know how in 7 they go to the Baku, Azerbaijan, which is, I mean, it's filmed in Colorado, but because the stunt,
Sorry,
Azerbaijan, Colorado.
Baku, Colorado. So But the stunts, they're like there, right? And they're in the cars, and their cars are dropping out of fucking planes, and like they went and filmed all that shit live, right? The Arctic scene, like clearly somebody took 6 cars and drove them around up in some snowy ass place. But none of these actors were in the Arctic or wherever the hell they shot the Arctic.
No, it was a lot of green screen. I noticed
all green screen. It's all on whoever's time they got at the moment, right? They only need like 2 at a time because they're all in separate cars, basically. So they all just like build interiors of 6 cars, shoot out 2 people at a time, and then like green screen the Arctic behind them, and then send like a stunt team up wherever the icy fucking place is to just get some like sweeping shots, some wide shots of all like 6 cars driving around, right? That they can VFX the fucking submarine in the back of.
Are you telling me there's no submarine? There was never a submarine?
There's never a submarine. I don't believe.
Movie magic.
Movie magic, baby.
Was there a plane? Was there a plane in 6? End of 6 on the runway?
I am tempted to say yes.
I'm thinking there was a plane.
So, Stephen, for the uninitiated,
yes,
the last 20 minutes of 6 are this surreal sort of expanded time sequence wherein a plane attempts to land on a runway, load 2 cars on the back, and take off again.
Nice.
However, during that time, the gang sort of catches up with the plane, and then they fight on the plane, and a bunch of battles ensue while the plane is doing this. So it's like they take this thing that should be 2 minutes and they stretch it out into like 20 minutes, basically. The plane sequence in 6, Darryl, I imagine was shot where they landed a plane. I don't know if they shot a car going into a cargo bay. I think they probably did that, but with some device, right? Of like they built the back of a cargo loader and whatever. They landed a plane and they shot a plane taking off. The cockpit is a set, I'm guessing. And the interior of the plane with all the boxes and cargo is probably a set on a rig that they can roll around and shit like that. That would be my best. As an my best, like I'm thinking about this, like I'm an art director, how do I do this? That would be my best guess. That's how I would get there.
I mean, how about the end where they crash the whole thing? Is that all VFX?
That's all CGI. Yeah. Stephen, you look queerious.
No, just so much of it. Like I'm just thinking about the whole film and how things are confusing to me. But like, so this is completely off. Well, I was thinking, are these movies production-wise cheaper because no one is in the same room, or way more expensive because no one's in the same room?
Great question. I would say, well, the no one being in the same room thing, I think, is a specific case to 8, right?
Oh,
I do think 7 and previous people got together and they did their thing. And 8, I think, is a specific, my guess, complete hypothetical conjecture, is that it ended up being more expensive because it was something that wasn't really planned for initially. Maybe it got planned early enough on where they could sort of catch some of those costs. But the thing that costs money is changing the schedule, right? It's not setting a schedule in a specific way all the time. Sometimes like flights in and out cost a lot of money or whatever, but really the thing that is cost money is like planning for one path and then having to divert and do something that's very different, because sets start to get built and cameras get rented and flights get booked and, like materials, labor, everything gets sort of put together to do, film on this one thing on one day. And if it's not going to happen in that one day, then, they need to rearrange, and that costs a lot of money, basically.
Got you. So maybe if it's the same thing with number 9 that they already filmed, if it was done in pre-production, then it shouldn't cost so much. But with 8, it probably ended up costing a lot more because it wasn't planned beforehand.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Sorry if that's boring, but yeah, I'm saying, these, I like the behind the scenes stuff.
I like the behind the scenes stuff too. I mean, in my behind the scenes is guesswork, right?
Yeah,
complete guesswork.
Can I change? Ask another question that has nothing to do with this part of the movie. So, Michelle Rodriguez's character, Vin Diesel. Sorry, I'm sorry, I don't know all the characters' names.
No, we don't either. So.
Oh, also, speaking of their names, have you ever seen a movie where friends say their friends' names to their face? I mean, they say. Charlize Theron's not friends with Dom, but she says Dom after every sentence she says to him. It makes no damn sense to me. But even the friend, like Michelle Rodriguez says Dom a million times too. I'm like, I don't know if they're married or boyfriend and girlfriend or what, but I'm like, why is everyone saying everyone's name so much? Made no sense to me. But sorry, that was a tangent. But so when Michelle Rodriguez's character was thought to be dead, how long was she thought to be dead before Dom had a baby with this other woman?
Well, had a baby is an interesting question.
Wait, is that not his baby? Am I confused?
No, because he met the other woman and sort of started being with her for a while, right? So it's like, where in their relationship did they get pregnant, I guess, is the question.
And how long was that after Michelle Rodriguez went missing?
Well, timeline is a hairy thing in this series.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't know that.
Michelle dies in the beginning of 4. And that takes place in 2009 because we see her gravestone in 6, which says she died in 2009. She's dead throughout 5. She's dead throughout 5.
Right. Definitely dead throughout 5.
Definitely dead throughout 5. And in 5, Dom goes to Rio, meets Elena, and starts a relationship with her. Elena, another instance in which a bad guy / antagonist becomes a good guy, kind of. She is working for The Rock in 5. So they start a relationship. Say they got pregnant like right away.
Yeah.
If that's the case, maybe it could happen pretty quick because they run right to Rio after 4. So like 5 weeks.
Holy shit.
5-6 weeks.
Oh no, I almost dropped my iPad. Sorry. Oh no, goodness.
Wait a minute.
Sorry, I fell backwards because I was surprised about 5 weeks and I almost dropped everything. Sorry.
Let's think. Do we see Elena in 6?
At the very end.
Very end when she meets Letty.
When Letty's surprised Letty's alive, and in the very beginning, he's living with Elena in Spain, wherever he is, where The Rock finds him in 6.
Right.
So, yeah, we see her
pretty quick.
It's pretty quick. I guess she's not at least visibly pregnant in 6, even at the end of 6. So she can't be more than 3-4 months pregnant at that point.
I always thought she was pregnant. I always thought she got pregnant right at the beginning of 6. Right? Like they showed them like waking up together. I'm just like, I just assume.
But we think 6 takes place like over the course of a week, basically. So if she got pregnant, if they like finished fucking, The Rock shows up, gets Dom on the team, and surprised she's pregnant from that initial fucking. You know, how much time does it take place? Then it's years. Because Jack, the baby the baby's only how old in 6? He's like newborn, right?
0.
1.
Do they drive to pick him up in the beginning of 6?
They drive to the yes, they fucking
to the
do.
birth. They drive to his birth.
Okay, but Mia in 5 is not Mia, because 5 starts right after 4. Okay, this really gets complicated. Brian and Mia fuck in 4, and we assume that Mia gets pregnant from the intercourse that they have in 4. They drive to Rio de Janeiro. She knows she's pregnant. Now, I've talked about how medically in order to be a 100% confirmed, not everything, there's no normal, but normally to be 100% confirmed pregnant, you need to be about 5 weeks, right? So we're assuming because she knows she's pregnant, she's 5 weeks pregnant in 5. Then that's another, if that's 5 weeks, so there's another, on a normal 40-week pregnancy cycle, there's another 35 weeks of pregnancy to go before she gives birth in the beginning of 6. So between 5 and 6, we're talking about 35 weeks, which is how many months? 9 months, 8 months, 7 and a little bit. So 7 months there to the beginning of 6, and then they fuck. We're talking about 9 months. But did Letty die? Did Letty die? Did Letty die earlier in 2009? Right? How much time between the DR scene where Letty dies? Oh no, how much time between the time Letty dies? None, because Dom shows up at her funeral, right?
Right.
Yeah, so okay. All right, we figured it out.
9 months? That's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I know you guys love Vin Diesel and Dom, but that's.
Hey, you say whatever you want, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I mean, I will have to explain that, like, the terms of Dom meeting Elena were that they were both, like, their connection was that they both lost lovers.
Yeah,
Elena
has lost her husband.
Exactly.
Context. That's what's good. Okay, no, that makes sense.
Maybe it makes this.
And when Michelle shows back up, Dom immediately ditches Elena. Peace out.
Fuck.
It's Letty for life. Sorry, Elena.
You know you don't have to go.
You know you don't have to go. He's an amazing guy.
He's amazing.
I wasn't that. I mean, obviously, I didn't know any of the characters, but I wasn't that emotionally invested in Vin Diesel's baby mama. But I guess if I had known her from movies before, but when she passes away from a gunshot wound, I wasn't that.
I don't know. I don't get to the emotional investment part. I think with Elena. I mean, I like her, but I'm on Team Letty of all.
Are there actual proper teams? Do people actually?
No, but there is sort of a Team Rock, Team Vin.
Oh yeah, I believe that. Situation. I was just thinking about, because you brought up that Rock talks about, like, real men are ready for work or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Like, The Rock has been in so many movies, and Vin Diesel has been in a lot of movies, but Vin Diesel has only, like, 90% of his movies he's Dom or Riddick. I was like, right? I was like,
or Xander Cage.
Xander Cage,
baby.
Well, except for the second one, that was Ice Cube, I believe.
That was Ice Cube. Except I think in the post-credit scene in XXX2 State of the Union, there is a Vin cameo.
I never saw it. I just knew that Ice Cube was in XXX2. I was just thinking about that, like how few roles Vin Diesel has played.
Darryl, correct me if you think I'm wrong. I think Vin thinks he's acting, right? Like, I honestly feel like The Rock sort of knows he's doing the Rock thing, right? He's on board with the fact that he's selling the Rock shtick, right? And, like, he's been selling that Rock shtick since WWF, basically. But I think that's one of the hard sticking points with Vin, is that, like, Vin thinks he's fucking acting his ass off, and finds it frustrating that this asshole, The Rock, is coming into this franchise that he's helped build from the ground up with his brilliant fucking acting, and taking it over to The Rock's character that he's just doing. He's just like some clown who's doing a character, right, of The Rock that he's trying to sell, right, and merchandise. And I think that's frustrating for Vin. I think that's really not a fun thing for Vin. He hates it, basically. That's a theory. It's not everything, but it's a theory. Because Vin used to be a good actor. That's, we've talked about that.
Well, Spielberg put him in Saving Private Ryan because he made this what was Spielberg thought was an awesome short film. That's why he threw him in Saving Private Ryan.
That short film is fucking awesome. Yeah, it's called
Multifacial. I don't think I ever saw it. I just remember that Spielberg chatted it up, and then he was like, "Yeah, I'll be in my World War II movie."
It's called Multifacial. The whole thing is on YouTube. It's like 20 minutes long, and it's about being sort of a racially ambiguous actor in New York. It's fucking great.
That's cool.
And he's also great. I mean, this is after Saving Private Ryan, but Find Me Guilty. Like, go watch Find Me Guilty and say that Vin Diesel didn't have chops, because he fucking does in that movie.
Well, I can imagine it's also just easy to fall back into you've been the same role for 8 movies. Yeah. It's like, yeah. I mean, I'm not so much, give me my check, but no, I already know what this person is, so I don't have to put work in right before. Yeah, there's no pre-production on his end. He's just showing up day of. But again, I don't know this character like you guys do. But I imagine it must be someone who's been the same role a lot. Hugh Jackman, But I like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. But he's been Wolverine in more movies than he hasn't been Wolverine. It's
true. But it's still interesting. To Hugh Jackman's credit, I feel like in that. I mean, there's some shit ass Wolverine movies out there, but
But that last
one, I'm not speaking to the quality of it, but at least Hugh Jackman went to found sort of a new place, right, to go for Wolverine in that movie, right? It wasn't if you look at X-Men 1 versus Logan or whatever, there's an arc in exploration in the character that's been revealed over time. Dom Toretto was a completely different person in 1, and then from 4 through 8, he's been exactly the same sort of lumpy businessman.
Sorry, do you know the Vin Diesel reindeer game story? Have you guys heard that?
No.
So I heard this on a different podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and David. I don't know if you guys know that podcast, but movie podcast. But one of the guys mentions. So you remember the Ben Affleck film Reindeer Games?
Darryl, have you seen this feature?
I don't know this one.
Action film. Ben Affleck. Gary Sinise, I think, is the bag. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen this movie, but Vin Diesel was one of the henchmen. This was before. He blew up. He's one of the henchmen, and one of the director, the producer, art director said, "Hey, can you take off your shirt in the shot?" And he goes, "No, I only take my shirt off in Vin Diesel movies."
Whoa.
And they're like, "Who's Vin Diesel?" And it's it's me. He wasn't even a thing yet, and he was like, "No, only in Vin Diesel movies."
That's a great fucking story.
Wow.
That's a great fucking story. Wow.
Yeah. And then he wasn't in the movie. I think he got cut out of the movie completely.
What a great thing to say. Also, I'm 100% on his side that he should only take his shirt off in Vin Diesel movies. But he only makes Vin Diesel movies anymore, basically.
It's true.
Right?
But I was like, oh wait, a third character. He's Groot too. So he has 3 characters between Riddick, Dom, and Groot. He is.
And Xander Cage. You're missing.
I'm sorry. 4 characters, and then Find Me Guilty. Okay.
4 characters, Find Me Guilty, and then he just did Bloodshot, which was the same thing.
That looked cool. I saw that trailer. I thought that looked pretty cool.
We watched it for the pod. It was mediocre. You guys want to do shout-outs?
Let's hit them.
A couple shout-outs. So we have a segment on this podcast. These movies have a lot of product placement in them. And we felt in the spirit of that, we should just have some product placement on the podcast for free, for shit we just use and in and around the world. So products, services, people, experiences. Darryl, do you have something you want to shout out to this week?
Yes. So I this week have a huge anti-shout out.
Ooh,
huge anti-shout out.
Ready.
Are you guys familiar with a vegetable product called the sunchoke?
Nope.
No.
Sunchoke. So the sunchoke is, it's also called the Jerusalem artichoke, which is a misnomer because it's not from Jerusalem and it's not part of the artichoke family. But a sunchoke is actually most closely related to a sunflower, but it has the sort of appearance of like a small, like knotty potato. So it looks like a root vegetable.
All right.
But the flavor is sort of like an artichoke heart. And this particular vegetable is incredibly delicious. Like imagine like artichoke hearts, but in French fry form.
Ooh.
How many of those you could eat? Like toasted, lemon, olive oil, salt, pepper, delicious.
I'm looking at a pic right now. It almost looks like ginger in a way.
It looks like ginger on the outside.
Yeah.
Texturally, it is not as sort of dense.
Fibrous.
The texture is very much like like an artichoke heart.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So as delicious as this particular root vegetable is, it has a chemical inside of it called inulin, so INULIN, and it produces the biggest stomach ache, the biggest farts you will ever feel ever.
Okay.
So I ate a bunch of those. I ate a bunch of sunchoke fries.
Did you know before going in, and we're just brazen about it, just like,
so this
how bad it could be.
This is the second time I've had sunchokes. I prepared them the same way the first time, but I must have eaten much less of them because I did it this time. I was like, yo, those things are delicious. Let's order a bunch of them. Let's fire those up. We had some like baked fish. It was a beautiful meal. It was so delicious. And I just like was wrecked the whole night the next day, and it was horrible. So watch yourself.
I'm trying to think of the most belly busting things I ever ate in my life. Like White Castle, obviously, is up there. Which I really only had once. I ate like 30 fucking White Castle burgers, and then it was not a good day. And I have this hot sauce I eat here called Cully's. They make a Reaper pepper hot sauce. That fucks me up. That fucks me up pretty bad.
So the difference between this type of pain and like a hot sauce type of thing, the hot sauce like hurts when it goes in, and then it's like it's like mildly upsetting in the stomach.
And then the next morning I have fucked up diarrhea. That's
sunchokes though. Sunchokes though, like as they go through, like small intestine is fine. Large intestine is so incredibly painful. It just expands and it's so huge, and you can't do anything with it until it like goes through. And it's incredibly it's so much more uncomfortable than just normal spiciness.
Let's shut it down. Let's shut down the sunchoke market in New York. I don't want anybody getting a stomach ache. You know what I mean? Let's call your representatives, basically. Let's get them.
You're gonna get fucking protest by the sunchoke farmer lobby or some shit.
Fuck big sunchoke. Okay, I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Stephen, what do you want to shout out to this week?
Okay. So you gave me a little heads up, and I thought about it. So I don't know when your listeners are listening to this, but we are on COVID quarantine right now. So I've been cooking more than I ever have in my life. And what I didn't realize is like when you saute and fry stuff, little splatters of oil go fucking everywhere. And and then if you do that, cook twice a day, that shit's just gross. So I'm going to big positive shout out to those mesh circle things you put over the pan so then the splatter doesn't go everywhere. I don't know what you call that, a mesh oil splatter.
Oil shield or something.
Oil shield, yeah. Those things are great.
Wow.
Especially when you don't want to clean your stove twice a day. So that's not as good a story as the sunchoke. But really those are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, those, yeah, that's what I have.
I've never used one in my life.
I only did this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've seen one before. I definitely don't own one, and this is a problem that I certainly have. I'm looking at my cabinets now, and they just have a glisten of bacon fat.
Oil.
Olive oil. And we also keep a few like storage items on top of the cabinets, and those things are just disgusting. Like all the like vases and like our Dutch oven up there. It's just every time you bring it down, it has like a sticky mess on it.
Yeah.
But I don't have anywhere else with the stuff.
That shit's cheap too. You can get one for like next to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
What was the impetus? Were you cooking something and splattering all over the fucking place, and you were just like, there's gotta be a thing for this? Or was it like you were at a store and you were like, this could be a thing. This could be useful.
So I was cooking and then just noticing that shit was fucking everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went for a bicycle ride, and a friend of mine was like, they have a thing for that. That's just like totally a thing that exists because you're not the first person that's had this trouble. And then you can get some really expensive ones though. So like, I mean, if we want to shit talk people too, the Williams Sonoma, it's a mesh thing. It's like you guys don't need to charge $75 for one of those.
If you're out there still buying WS in 2020, like
you fucking idiots.
I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you clearly haven't done 5 seconds of research to find out it's fucking overpriced garbage.
Yeah. Big Sunchoke and Williams Sonoma, you're on the shit list.
You're on the shit list. I have like a kind of fun retro. I have a retro shout out this week. I once in a while I partake in a video game or two, and I had this thing happen where like we were just talking about like our old N64 experiences, and like my parents never let me own a video game console when I was a young lad, but when I might have mentioned this on the pod before, when we had birthdays, they would rent us an N64 at Blockbuster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would spend all weekend of my birthday playing N64, and like my brother's birthday playing N64. But that was it. It was like twice a year, right? So I just like loved all, those games like Star Fox and fucking Mario 64 particularly, and like GoldenEye, all the classics, 1080 snowboarding, Snowboard Kids.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so I was just thinking about this the other day, and I was looking it up, Googling around, and turns out there's like a very competent N64 emulator for PC. And I got my fucking controller hooked up, and I downloaded this, and I got a couple of ROMs, and like I'm playing Mario 64 on my computer, and I'm having a blast in quarantine.
Wow.
Fuck yeah.
Never got those 120 stars, and I'm giving it another shot. And like, it's just, it's so much fun. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, did you say you have a controller or something that you use?
I have a PlayStation controller because I have a PlayStation, and like I figured out, I didn't figure out, other people figured out a workaround where I could use that and map it to sort of a Nintendo scheme and use it for Mario. Yeah. So it's been good. It's been fun. It's a nice little throwback thing to do in the afternoon on lockdown, basically.
I have a question that's not related. Yeah. I mean, no, it's related to this, but not to, I'm here at quarantine without a partner. Do you find it like, maybe you guys, you're spending a little too much time with your partner, so you're like, hey, babe, I'm getting an N64 emulator so we don't yell at each other? Or is that part of the reason, or is that too personal a question? Or?
No, it's not personal. Too personal. I just do it. Like, yeah, I just like was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. I don't think about it till after the fact when I'm playing a bunch of it, and the other person who I'm living with is like, maybe don't play that so fucking much. And then well, I'm not playing that, and then like that's where the fighting ensues after the fact, basically. Yeah, that's what I generally tend to not, much as a defect of mine, I tend to not think about other people's feelings prior to going into, like investing into a time into a situation. Yeah.
Cool.
Something I'm working on.
I mean,
Gotcha.
yeah, if I could speak to this, it can work, but yeah, you do have to sort of think about it ahead of time. So I live with my partner Jess here. We got a Nintendo Switch a few months ago, and we were talking about it for a long time, and then she ultimately was the one that were like, "It's time." So we have a good balance here. We had a better balance where we were both playing like sort of equally. Now I play most of the time, but I like end up waking up like early. Like I'm up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning. Like
that switch.
Are you
getting switching
into these
in
games.
bed? Are you not getting up to switch? Or are you switching to? Is the switch next to you? You grab it, start switching right away.
Bed's over there. I keep the switch in the living room. So I physically have to get up, go to the bathroom, I'll brush my teeth, I'll put in my contact lenses. I'll have a drink of water. If there's a coffee, I might even have a cup of coffee, jump back in bed, hit the switch. But sometimes I'm like playing the switch for like 2 hours.
Yeah. It's brutal.
You see how he kind of whispered that part a little bit? So the partner didn't know, like kind of 2 hours. It's funny. You just said you're like, hey, partner, we're getting a little older. I think it's time we get a Nintendo Switch.
I think it's a nice like shared couple experience is getting a Nintendo Switch. My sister did it with her husband. They got a Nintendo Switch. The N64 emulator is not a shared experience. I will say it is not a communal endeavor, right? As much as sometimes I would like it to be, I don't think it piques the other occupants' interest at all, even a little bit, basically. So there's that.
So fuck Sun jokes. Fuck William Sonoma. Yes, Nintendo Corporation.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Shout out to Nintendo Corporation.
Can I ask something? I don't know if you guys have ever discussed on this show.
Mm-hmm. Yes, please. Is it Fast and Furious related or no?
Yes. Yeah. That's why I bring it up.
This is the perfect show for this.
Have you guys seen the Hurricane Heist?
We haven't. We have not watched that movie, but I remember watching the trailer for it.
Is this a newer movie? What do I know? What do we know about this movie?
Nick, can you explain? You can probably explain better than me.
The Hurricane Heist is a 2018 feature directed by Rob Cohen, who was the director of the first movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it stars a bunch of people I've never heard of before. Well, and basically it involves a gang who tries to pull they try to rob the U.S. Treasury during a Category 5 hurricane. And I've never seen it, and I don't know. Here's what I don't know, and Stephen, do not fucking spoil this for us.
Yeah.
I do not know if the hurricane is a piece of the plan, or if they had a plan and all of a sudden a fucking hurricane starts and they're like, oh shit, we gotta pull it off.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn that part of the movie. Right.
I would love to watch this movie.
Well, the main reason I brought up is because I remember seeing the trailer a couple of years ago, and it said from the director of Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
And then it just boom, the Hurricane Heist, but it's in the Fast and Furious font. That's why I was like, they were pushing really hard the Fast and Furious side of it. Yeah,
which
real
was a
hard.
really dead set sign that it was going to be a real piece of shit. It was like it was directly proportional to how like much they were tying it to the Fast and Furious franchise.
Yeah. But you might want to do an episode on the Hurricane Heist. Except, is that the director that got in a bunch of shit for some
he did
fucked up shit?
Yeah, he did. Which is
I
something
wasn't
we
sure if that
haven't
was
discussed.
the guy.
We haven't discussed it on this
right?
pod because honestly, like I'm so not knowledgeable enough about it, the situation, that I felt maybe we should just leave it until it's a more complete story.
Understandable.
Like that's, I'm not trying to make it into a narrative. I'm just trying to let things fall. I'm not the pod is not an advocate or a defender. We're just trying to let things fall and discuss it but in a more holistic approach once it sort of happens.
Got you. Sorry, I wasn't trying to make it all heavy and weird.
No, it's all good, man.
Shit, my bad.
Stephen, I think that, Darryl, you good on this one?
I'm good. I got
on this one. Stephen, you have any last minute shit you need to know about?
I can go over my notes and see real quick if there's like anything you guys.
Yeah, pick out like the top one thing you're dying to know.
Top one thing? Okay, give me a sec. All right, let me know. Slowest car on the island. That's a weird line they say about cars in Cuba. All right, no, weird. Sorry, one sec. You answered a lot of these.
Good. I'm glad we could help.
Yeah. This is one. Okay. Or Charlize Theron when she says it's zombie time. That was pretty cool with all those electric cars. I did like that.
Yeah.
And why do they keep saying nuclear football? That just means nuclear bomb.
I think it's a. Darryl, do you know the answer to this question?
I don't really know. It's not a term that's made up in this movie.
No,
I've definitely heard this nuclear football thing before.
In fact, it is a real U.S. government term.
Really?
When I say real, I mean like it's been used enough in movies that I think maybe it's a thing.
Got you, because a couple people say it. That's why I was confused. I'm like,
and it's used for like where the codes for the nuclear launch codes are kept. So that like briefcase with the that people have with the chain with the handcuffs on it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, is the coolest way to do a briefcase is handcuff yourself.
Fuck yeah.
But that's like the football. The one that has the briefcase with the nuclear codes in it is the football. And I think at least at one point that was the term used by the U.S. government to refer to that briefcase that had the shit.
Well, that's not as fun an answer as I was hoping.
No, sorry, buddy.
All right, fine. Then this is my last question.
Yeah.
All right, is that okay?
No, hit us.
Are they civilians? Like, what are their? I don't understand.
What's their like legal status?
What's their government clearance?
Like, I know The Rock is or was law enforcement of some type, but the rest of these people,
No, they're just dudes that chill. Pretty much.
Yeah.
I don't know where they make any money. I don't know where they get any of their money.
They've been recognized internationally.
Race wars every year. Right?
Sponsorships.
They like host race wars and get a sponsorship of that every year. But COVID, race wars is probably canceled this year. So,
everybody stay in your car.
The Toretto income. They have a garage. Some of them have garages. They've pulled off heists where they get money from. But yeah, their status is clear. Like they have blank slates, right? So all their crimes have been forgiven by the U.S. government, and they're free to go.
They are not tax-paying citizens.
No, they don't pay taxes. That's for sure. On anything. None of the cars they import either. That's been it.
Can I just also just when Dom drives over the submarine and then it explodes and then all their cars go around him to protect him from the explosion, I just started crying. I cry very easily in movies, but I just wanted to mention that I'm like an easy cry, but I was like, damn, Fast and Furious got me.
Right? It is good.
The team spent the whole movie thinking, like, front of mind that they were being double-crossed, but they really were hanging on to the family. They were hanging on to Dom. And right when they thought they were about to get blown up in Antarctica, he comes to save the day. It was truly an emotional moment.
And if you want to save the day for the Nolt podcast, you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It's like a huge thing that helps save the day every day when you do it. There's not a lot on there. So if you want to just throw one on there, take 5 minutes, it's great. Twitter at Nolt Podcast, NOLTT Podcast. We have an Instagram, No One Likes the Tuna Podcast on Instagram. And if you'd like to throw us a buck or two, which helps us do like our fucking Zoom calls, which we're going to start throwing up on YouTube again. And we did a live, not kind of, but a sort of a streamed marathon a couple weeks ago of these movies, which cost a little bit of money, then you can throw us on patreon.com/no one likes the tuna podcast. Throw us a buck. Who gives a shit, you know? It's not for COVID relief, though. So just be aware of that going in. That's not where that money's going.
Wait, did you guys mention that Big Sunchoke had something to do with COVID-19? Did you guys mention that?
No,
before?
we hadn't talked about that.
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know if you sorry.
We hadn't talked about that.
Yeah.
No, that will get us assassinated. So keep that under wraps. Stephen, do you have anything you want to plug? You got anything going? You were in a band, first of all. I do want to mention that at the very end of this podcast.
I don't really have a lot to
what's the name of your band?
My band is called Spirit Family Reunion. We've been around like 11 years. We toured a lot. Now not so much touring. Like every band right now, no one is touring this summer.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really have much to plug. If anyone's in Lefferts Gardens and like wants to have a beer on the stoop, let me know. 6 feet apart, face mask required. No, I don't really. I'm
cool.
I got nothing.
All right, well, go listen to Spirit Family Reunion. I've heard them twice at this point. I heard them at our mutual friend Charlotte's wedding for the first time, and
still married.
Still married, yes. They're still, thanks to the band. And you play in the band. You play spoons. Is that true?
I'm not.
What do you call it?
Forks on the washboard.
The washboard.
I play the washboard. Yeah, when I was little, they said, "Hey, do you want to get an instrument and learn it, and you'll never get laid?" And I said, "Sure." So I picked up the washboard.
And you sing beautifully.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
And I saw them for the second time in Newburgh, New York. Is that where it was? No, not Newburgh.
New Paltz? No, Kingston.
Kingston, New York. Last summer, and very good folk music. Yeah, would you qualify it as that? Okay.
Yeah.
So find that shit out. But I don't know. Buy their album.
Oh yeah, you can do that.
Nice.
Yeah, man. Listen, thanks so much for joining us, Stephen. We had a great time talking to you this week.
Thank you for having me.
Darryl?
Woo!
That's it.
Much love, my friend.
Always. Thank you, Stephen. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Peace.